I'm Michael Popok. You're on the Midas Touch Network along with Legal AF. We're doing this early week legal updates. Just have so much to talk about at that intersection of law and politics. We just can't wait for our next episode of Legal AF. There's just some great new developments for justice and for democracy, and some things that you just need to know in order for us to get our audience activated and calling the senators and helping us do the things we need to do with confirmation process. Going to cover it all here on this special edition of Legal AF. Let me kick it off with what happened just today, just late this morning, with the Manhattan District Attorney's filing telling Judge Merchan, who's presiding over the 34 felony count conviction of Donald Trump, effectively sentence Donald Trump now, but make him serve his sentence in 4 years. In other words, see you in jail, felon, 2029. Now, let me break it down for you, because I've seen different headlines out there by corporate media when they're not busy trying to suck up to Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Sometimes they just don't get their headlines right. And I saw one that was like, Manhattan DA agrees to delay. Okay, that's not quite a proper summary of what really happened. Let me tell you what really happened right here. I think that's why you come to Legal AF. We don't blow smoke or sunshine. Manhattan DA filed a paper that was required to be filed by the Judge Merchan, today at 10 a.m. We got our hands on it at about 12. And what the judge wants is the DA's position as to whether the election changed their world or not. Did it suck the air out of the room? Does it prevent the continued processing of Donald Trump as a 34 count felony, convicted felon or not? Should sentencing that was scheduled for later in November, should that be impacted or not? Should the indictment be tossed? Should the conviction be tossed? Should the sentencing be tossed? He wanted to know all of that. And the Manhattan DA was more than happy to oblige. What they told them in their filing is, Judge, you've got to balance. The judges do this all the time, right? Scales of justice. You've got to balance, on the one hand, the office of the presidency, not Trump particularly, just the office of the presidency and its supreme power, if you will, under Article 2 of the Constitution and in transition. And they're respectful of that. But the other thing on the other side of the balance, the other side of the scale, is that the jury has spoken here. In our public criminal justice system, the public have a seat at the table, and they are represented by the jury. And the jury has spoken and convicted Donald Trump 12-0 in New York of 34 felony crimes, right? And so you have to balance these two things. And they said, we have a perfect way to balance it, Judge. Here's what you do. You leave the trial alone. It already happened. You leave the conviction alone. That already happened. The only thing that hasn't happened is the sentencing. And so the sentencing, to balance these two things, we just use time. We use time. They said, at best, Donald Trump has temporary immunity. I kind of like the way that sounds. It's sort of like a temporary amnesia or a virus that you pick up over the weekend that clears by Monday. And they said, eventually, this is going to clear. And this is going to clear when he comes out of office, when he leaves in 4 years. And then he can go to jail. I mean, that's effectively what they're saying. They're telling the judge, this is the way you should balance it. Stop the process now, maybe do the sentencing, but the actual imposition or the start of the sentence wouldn't be until after he returns to being John Q. criminal, when he comes out of the office and he recedes into the mass of the public. No longer anything but an ex-president by that point. And so that's their idea. Now, the briefing that has to happen to get us to that point, they've argued, the Manhattan DA, they've urged the court to adopt a briefing schedule. What else? You come to Legal AF for the briefing schedules, don't you? So the briefing schedule is going to be, in their view, Judge, you got to get to the bottom of the immunity decision, whether anything that happened in 2016 before Donald Trump was president, if any part of the Supreme Court immunity decision applies to that, why would it? As I've said on another hot take, the crime that was committed was basically the payoff to Stormy Daniels was completed, of course, before the election. It was made for election interference. But the payback to Michael Cohen was after. Payoff, which is the crime, pay back the cover-up after. So why would immunity apply to any of that? And the judge was ready last Tuesday to issue his immunity decision, but he hit pause because the parties asked him to pause. It's already done. It's already baked. It's already ready to be released. So the Manhattan DA said, let's hold on to that a little bit longer, Judge. Why don't we brief this new motion to dismiss that Donald Trump is raising? Because now he's raising, I got elected. And I gotta hurry up. I gotta be somewhere. I gotta be somewhere on the 20th of January. And I don't have. It's like the rabbit with the giant watch in Alice in Wonderland. I've got very important places to go. I don't have time for this. And they want to file a motion on that grounds, basically, that, the Presidential Transition Act law, and you can't do anything to impair or impede the presidency, and you can't get it all done before the inauguration. So it all should be put off like indefinitely, forever, as opposed to temporarily, which is what the Manhattan DA is arguing. So that'll get fully briefed. And the Manhattan DA says, why don't we all brief that and get it done by like the 9th of December? And then, Judge, you can rule on that too, because we understand that whoever loses this process is going to take an appeal. Manhattan DA is reasonable. They don't trade in magical thinking. They don't have a unicorn in their offices, crapping gold bricks, although we'd all like one. So there's going to be appeals, 2 levels of appeals in state court, and then maybe a federal appeal all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. So let's not worry about the 26th or sentencing. We know that's not happening. But we'll be back here one day, Judge. This is the Manhattan DA. And when we are back and you have denied the immunity and it's been upheld on appeal, and you've denied the permanent dismissal of any sentencing process because Donald Trump happened to get elected again, which will be denied and affirmed by an appellate court. We'll be right back here, Judge, probably sometime in the second quarter of 2025, and then you can sentence him. And then he can start the sentence in 2029. See how easy that is? That's the problem they solve for. We're waiting for another piece of paper. Has not come out yet. That'll be the subject of my next urgent legal update. That's the Trump lawyers. Now, Trump's running out of lawyers, mainly because he kicked them all into his administration. His private lawyers like Todd Blanche, Emile Bove, John Sauer, they're all nominees now at the Department of Justice and in the Solicitor General's office, Deputy Attorney General. So I'm confused as to when the next piece of paper gets written, and it starts getting written in January, does Donald Trump now have to hire new lawyers? Or are the old lawyers going to be writing on Department of Justice letterhead? They can't be private lawyers anymore. It's a very odd place that we're in, all because of what happened on Tuesday. And so we're going to have to see now what the next piece of paper written on Todd Blanche's stationery is going to say. And then the judge rules. And I think we're going to get a ruling, just to manage expectations here or to make my level best prediction. The judge is going to sort of side with the Manhattan DA, generally does, because they're reasonable. And he's going to say, I like briefing schedules. Let's do a briefing schedule. Sure, middle of December before the holidays. That sounds nice. And I'll make my ruling, sometime end of December, beginning of January, and then everybody can go do what they're going to do. And I'm sort of inclined to agree with the sentencing proposal. Sentence now, serve the sentence later. And we'll see what the judge does. So I'll continue to follow that. And then the next major thing that's going to happen in the Manhattan DA case is going to be, we're going to get that appeal relatively quickly, because that Donald Trump's lawyers are not going to abide by Judge Merchan's decision. This is the same judge that Donald Trump, until he decided it was not earning him any more points for his election, he didn't have to continue to bash Merchan or his daughter or other people in his life, and he sort of ignored Judge Merchan. They're going to have to, try to take their appeals. They have a couple of appeals. They don't like the fact that Judge Merchan didn't let them take this case to federal court for sentencing, which is weird anyway. Especially they must not be following. They're so busy. They're not following developments in the law. They're not getting cases over to federal court anymore under federal officer or supremacy court arguments. I know that because the United States Supreme Court just rejected Mark Meadows' attempt to take a case like this one, Georgia prosecution of him, over to federal court. So I don't see any way for Donald Trump to be able to drag the case at the sentencing level. That's all that's left, over to federal court. That's not going to happen. And then we got this other motion practice that's going to happen. So I think the takeaway from this particular segment is that it is likely that ultimately one day Judge Merchan, unless the Supreme Court twists themselves into a pretzel again, United States Supreme Court, and rules somehow that he can never be sentenced because we never got around to sentencing before he became elected president again. A weird doctrine finding no support in the U.S. Constitution, but that's never stopped John Roberts and the rest of the MAGA right wing before. unless we have that kind of outlandish outlier ruling, Donald Trump's going to get sentenced. And my prediction based on an analysis of the 30 or 40 other cases that look like Donald Trump's, except he has more convictions, is that he's going to get, 2 to 5 years in prison. I mean, Steve Bannon, who's going to start a trial now in February, just to wrap up what's going on in Manhattan, same courthouse, different judge, same prosecutors in the Manhattan DA. And they've been really successful. They nailed Donald Trump twice for 2 different organizations. And now they're going after Bannon for the Build the Wall Foundation. Remember that? The place where Bannon lied, allegedly as alleged in the indictment to the donors, that 100% of everything donated would end up going to build the wall. No, it didn't go to build the wall. It went to build their bank accounts. And the co-founder, Brian Kolfage, is sitting in a federal prison for these federal crimes. Bannon got, wait for it, a pardon. Yes. Remember when Donald Trump handed out 275 pardons the last time? That number will pale in comparison to the amount of pardons he's going to issue on the first day. I think that number is going to have a 2 in front of it, like 2,000, for all the Jan 6 people and everybody else in his life and himself, if he can get away with it. But he pardoned Bannon, but he made a mistake. He should have pardoned Bannon after the trial convicted him in federal court for Build the Wall. He waited till before, and because it was before, he could be tried by a state court and it not be what we call double jeopardy. So because he never got jeopardy before. Jeopardy never attached in the first case because they never started that trial. He pardoned too early. He was premature pardoning. And then we had the state, Manhattan DA, prosecuting, same facts against Bannon. That trial was going to start December the 2nd or the 9th. But because of some last minute discovery, that information that got provided to Bannon, like here's your Visa and American Express record showing how you use this for your personal gain, the judge was like, why don't we just roll this over till February? It's a state court judge. It's not, she goes home at 5 every day. She's like, let's roll it over. So it's going to be February 25th. But he's going to trial, Bannon. And if he loses that for money laundering, for fraud, and there's a mountain of evidence against him, he's likely to lose that. I know he acts like, well, there's nothing to see here. There's a lot to see here. And that one could be like 2 to 5 years. Also in state court. It's unfortunate that the way the trials are lined up between Trump and Bannon, that they won't be bunkmates. But, them's the breaks. So that's what's going on in the Manhattan DA prosecutor world, Bannon and Trump. I'll just touch on Giuliani here for a minute. As long as we're staying in New York, Giuliani has finally, he got fired by one set of lawyers a week ago, hired a new set of lawyers who used to represent Paula Jones against Bill Clinton a million years ago. And they finally got around to turning over a lot of his personal property. That gold watch from his grandfather and all those rings and watches, and that 1980s jalopy of a Mercedes down in Hialeah, Florida. I've been to Hialeah. Amazing food, by the way. Used to have a track there too. But I don't know why it was stored in Hialeah, but he turned it over in Hialeah, Florida, and Ruby Freeman and Shea Moss to collect on their $150 million judgment. You heard me right. $150 million judgment for defamation. They get to drive around in that Mercedes. Now it's theirs. The only piece of property, which is half of, I think, his estate, basically, is this condo in Palm Beach, Florida, next to or near Mar-a-Lago. That's worth about $3 or $4 million. And now, of course, he claims, I live in Florida full time. It's homestead protected. You can't take my property, because they have a protection for deadbeat debtors about homes. That's why a lot of people run to Florida, buy big houses, and throw their money in it. So they nobody can touch it. The creditors can't touch it. So Giuliani whining the whole way. And after they have the fight with the same judge in New York about the condo, if he loses that, he'll have to turn over the keys to the condo. He's already turned over the keys to his New York apartment, which is worth about $4 or $5 million. And this is all going like 100. So talk about 100% to the people, 100% to Ruby Freeman and Shea Moss, because the law firm representing them is working pro bono, and only if they get awarded attorney's fees and has to be paid by the other side are they taking any fees. So I really appreciate that. It's It's a nice little aspect of our profession when you do work, and I've done it, of course, in my career, pro bono for somebody, rather than take money out of their pocket. So that's what's going on in New York. I'm going to cover next Matt Gaetz. I have to. We got reporting already from Maggie Haberman of the New York Times that even Donald Trump is telling close confidants internally. It's a 50-50 shot at best for Gaetz, even though externally he's like, we must confirm him. Get that senator on the phone. And there's a lot of new reporting. You know who's getting on the phone now? The two witnesses who were young women at the time that watched, according to their testimony, watched Matt Gaetz have sex, rape a young girl. I'm going to cover everything related to Matt Gaetz and, of course, Tulsi Gabbard and Henseth. We got developments in that as well. Lots of receipts suddenly showing up about these people as Donald Trump struggles, along with Susie Wiles, she's currently the nominee for chief of staff, but I'm not sure she makes it, try to get these wacko cabinet picks who undermine national security confirmed by a Senate that seems a little squeamish, including the Republicans, about confirming these people. And speaking of confirmations, I'll also talk about how are we doing? How are the Democrats doing with the remaining days to get those judge positions filled? There was a week ago over 45 positions that needed to be filled before Biden said goodnight. And how are they doing with that? With a group of senators who are being instructed, who are being ordered by fiat by their future president to not confirm another judge, save it all for him. We'll cover it all in this urgent emergency update of Legal AF, but we've got sponsors, and thank God they're here, even on the other side of Tuesday. Pro-democracy sponsors, they know our editorial viewpoint. They know generally what we say, and yet they stick by us, so we're asking you to stick by them. So here's a word from our sponsors. As we approach fall, I'm looking forward to getting back into some of my favorite rituals. Evening walks in the cooler weather, football season, and as always, spending time with my family. But there's one new ritual I've added that's become essential. Daily hydration and energy from Liquid IV. You just tear open a stick, pour it into 16 ounces of water, and give it a quick stir. The new peach blackberry flavor is fantastic. I've found Liquid IV to be a game changer during those long nights prepping for the podcast and hot takes, and with our newborn up all night, or when I'm traveling. It's more than just a drink. It's a science-backed way to hydrate better. Powered by LIV Hydroscience, Liquid IV turns ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink and 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. For our listeners who often burn the midnight oil following breaking legal and political news, the Hydration Multiplier Plus Energy delivers about 100 milligrams of natural caffeine. That's comparable to 1 to 2 cups of coffee, but with the added benefit of superior hydration. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. It's always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. Start a new fall ritual with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code LEGALAF at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code LEGALAF at liquidiv.com. Traditional bed sheets, they can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat. It can lead to acne, allergies, and stuffy noses, and it's just gross. Miracle Made offers a whole line of self-cleaning, antibacterial bedding, such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent up to 99.7% of bacteria growth and require up to 3 times less laundry. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, no matter the weather. So you get better sleep every night. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Go to trymiracle.com/legalaf to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, If you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo, LegalAF at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/LegalAF and use the code LegalAF to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/LegalAF to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Ever been on a text chain about coordinating like 5 people's schedule for one simple dinner, and by the 4th screen, you've forgotten who these people are, and you've lost your desire to see them at all? Why does everything have to be so complicated? Take creating a will or trust. It may feel complicated, but it doesn't need to be. Trust and Will makes creating your will easy, like lounging on the couch easy. I'm so glad I found my way to Trust and Will. Their website is intuitive and user-friendly. And now that I have walked through their easy-to-follow process, I have the peace of mind from knowing that my assets and wishes are secure. And that includes making sure that our baby daughter is well protected and cared for. Ensure your family and loved ones avoid lengthy, expensive legal proceedings or the state deciding what happens to your assets. Their simple step-by-step process guides you from start to finish, one question at a time. Save loved ones time and stress by having all your documents in one place with bank-level encryption. Live customer support is available through phone, chat, and email. Trust and Will has an overall rating of excellent and thousands of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. Let Trust and Will uncomplicate the process for you. Protect what matters most in minutes at trustandwill.com/LegalAF and get 10% off plus free shipping. That's 10% off and free shipping at trustandwill.com/LegalAF. All right, we are back. Time to talk about the cabinet picks. I'll do a run up to it, like a little bit of a runway before we launch into this segment. Donald Trump has been busy trying to nominate his entire criminal defense legal team to high up positions in the Department of Justice. So far, Todd Blanche, his consolation prize for right now not being nominated for Attorney General, even though he did, by all accounts, did a pretty good job being Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer. He has been nominated for, as of now, Deputy General Counsel. It's a position currently held by Lisa Monaco under Merrick Garland. It's a very important position. It kind of runs the day-to-day operations of the Department of Justice, which explains why he was picked, because at least he was a U.S. attorney. At least he was a lawyer, unlike his boss, who would, in Donald Trump's, weird stew of a brain, would be Matt Gaetz. And he brings along his assistant, Emil Bove. I'll also speculate here, my own seasoned conjecture about whether if Matt Gaetz's head gets lopped off, if everybody just moves up one. And it's really going to be Blanche for Attorney General. Or if Donald Trump says, I like Aileen Cannon down in Mar-a-Lago, and she's back. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But let me focus on the Matt Gaetz part. With all these lawyers now firmly in place, Matt Gaetz, I don't think anybody who's a reasonable, fair-minded person would disagree with me that Matt Gaetz is the most unqualified nominee for Attorney General in our entire history, in our nation's history, period. He's barely a lawyer. I don't even think he has an active bar license. He's never really practiced law. He does what a lot of failed lawyers do. They ran for Congress, where they can get a paying job, a paying gig, 3 squares a day, healthcare, pretty good benefits in the government. And that's what Matt Gaetz did. And so his only qualification, and if you want to put it that way, his only experience with the Department of Justice is on the wrong side of it, where he's been prosecuted and investigated for sex trafficking, bribery, and raping underage girls. This is the investigation. And so, of course, this would be Donald Trump's pick. He's the molester in chief, having been adjudged by a New York jury to have committed technical rape in New York, only technical because they couldn't figure out which body part he used, and in the E. Jean Carroll case. So, of course, he doesn't see any problem with, his defense secretary having a sex assault allegation, a rape allegation. His nominee for Attorney General, same thing. He doesn't see any problem with this. Do you notice also how few women there are in the cabinet or people of color at all. The four top cabinet posts, the big four, the final four, right? The ones that are the plum ones, the ones that everybody wants and fights for, are Attorney General, Treasury, Secretary of State, and Department of Defense. All four of those are men, white men. Well, Marco Rubio, he's Cuban, but he would tell you he's a white guy. If you really asked him, he's Cuban American. Four, no women, no women. The women have been relegated to the children's table. They get Homeland Security with Kristi Noem. They get Director of National Intelligence. But even that, even though the title's all highfalutin, she's not the chief spy master. It's John Ratliff, who's the head of the CIA, who, yes, on the org chart, she's above him, but not really. And so no women, no black, no brown, no people of color. And I'll just throw this out there. For somebody that peeled away a number of the Jewish vote, there's no Jews. We just got a commerce secretary pick in Howard Lutnick. But other than that, and that's sort of a bridesmaid selection because he was really shooting for Treasury. He didn't get that. So no Jews, no women in the top four, whole bunch of white guys and with crazy thoughts. You know, you think Matt Gaetz is unqualified? Pete Hegseth, who's so unqualified that he couldn't even make the starting lineup on Fox and Friends weekday, relegated to weekend edition of Fox and Friends, not even the news part, the pretty boy hair and makeup part, right? He has made it be known a couple of things. One, he said publicly that, talk about a slight against all women, that if he had his way, no women would serve in the military in combat positions. Women have been in combat positions for like over 30 years. That's because he's a Christian right-wing nationalist who believes in male hegemony and only males should be in leadership positions. This is their teachings. This is who he follows, people that talk and speak like this. And then it comes out of that pie hole in his face when he says things like women should not be serving with, talk about stolen valor. He just stole the valor from all the women that fought and died and shed blood for this country in combat positions. So you see he's got a peculiar relationship with women. But let me stay on Matt Gaetz because that's really where a lot of this new fast-moving story is going. So we got receipts, and they seem to be in the form of Venmo. Apparently, this was a little-known thing. I had forgotten it or I didn't know it at the time. Matt Gaetz adopted a 19-year-old Cuban boy, teenager, man, as a son. Did a whole People magazine profile about it. Well, that's nice. Then apparently this 19-year-old adopted son of his has a Venmo account. And it looks like that Matt Gaetz was using his 19-year-old adopted son's Venmo account to pay underage women for sex, or to repay Joel Greenberg, who's serving 11 years in prison, federal prison, for sex trafficking, who was his wingman, to pay them back, to pay these women back, listing on Venmo, because, you got to list something on the memo, like haircut, lunch, reimbursement, dog walking. He wrote tuition, right? Education. That's how depraved he is, right? The allegations is he had sex with underage girls as young as 17, and then he reimbursed them by writing tuition. Or he just wrote party time, party favors, because, there's allegations, there's allegations of illicit, surprised myself there, allegations of illicit drug use as well, along with bribery. So we got the receipts because they're out there. And you know who else has the more Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump try to bury and drown and strangle that House Ethics Committee report, which has still not come out, the more the people that testified to the Ethics Committee are coming out through their counsel and offering to testify against Matt Gaetz at the Senate confirmation hearings. We saw what happened when Christine Blasey Ford, a PhD doctorate, gave a very heartfelt and tearful, authentic testimony under oath against Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, it didn't work. He still got confirmed because Mitch McConnell slammed it together and boxed out all of the victims and wouldn't let them testify. We can't let that happen again. But at least 2 women have come public, and their lawyers take it to the airwaves. That one says she had sex with Matt Gaetz that he paid for. And the other one says she watched him have sex with a 17-year-old underage girl, or rape an underage girl. I mean, you can't really have sex at that point when you're an adult and they're a girl, at a party. And they are ready to go public. They went public. They went to the House Ethics Committee. And we all know now it's been over a week. If the House Ethics Committee report exonerated Matt Gaetz, it would have been released. So we know ipso facto that it is a stinging indictment of his criminal depravity. It has to be. Otherwise, he would have been pushing for its release. He knows what's in it. The chairman of the committee, who's a Republican, the House Ethics Committee, he said 2 days before Matt Gaetz resigned, like with a wink, well, we'll be releasing the report on Friday unless Matt Gaetz is not here anymore because he's resigned. And lo and behold, 48 hours later, Matt Gaetz resigned. So you don't think there was a conversation? Is it a stretch of the imagination that there was a phone call between the two of them in which one told the other, sort of tipped them off what was in that report? But if it just shows you how insulting Donald Trump is and patronizing to the American people, even the voters that voted for him, because he thinks that they shouldn't have this information. He thinks that he shouldn't have to go through an FBI vetting process for any of his candidates. He shouldn't have to have a confirmation process with the Senate, even though the Constitution says there needs to be. He's trying to do this strategy that you might have heard we talked about, recess appointments. Somebody, probably Stephen Miller, did a little, recess appointments for dummy memo or PowerPoint, and suddenly Donald Trump grew a brain and started spouting off about recess appointments, which require at least a 10-day legitimate, not made up artificial recess of the Senate in order to slam in candidates, federal officers and cabinet members for what would be a 2-year term as acting judges, acting defense secretary, acting attorney general without confirmation. I don't think that's happening any longer. Donald Trump is already having enough trouble, according to reporting, getting Matt Gaetz confirmed. He's spoken to a number of Republican senators. At least 12 of them have jumped off sides and said, we either need more information, we need the Senate report, we need him to testify. And some have said, no way, no how. Matt Gaetz is not a serious candidate, and I'm not going to vote to confirm him. And those are the Republicans. So all we need is 3 or 4 to peel away, and then there's no majority, and he dies. That's why the reporting from Maggie Haberman is Donald Trump is telling people privately what he's not saying publicly, which is Gaetz may not be long for this world. And then he could just put him in another, he could just put him at, he could put us out of our misery and Gaetz out of his misery and just give him another job that doesn't require Senate confirmation. And that's the easy way out. That's what you do when somebody gets stuck like that. And then the question is, who is next in line for the Attorney General? Well, several weeks ago, we reported that there was a leak, kind of a phony leak out of the presidential transition team, headed by the guy who just got the Commerce Secretary position, Howard Lutnick, and that Boris Epshteyn, who Donald Trump relies on for everything, Matt Gaetz is Attorney General out of the fevered mind of Boris Epshteyn, who told Donald Trump on a plane, and by the time the plane landed, Matt Gaetz was announced as Attorney General. That's how much thought went into this selection process. Boris Epshteyn said it. It was like a ventriloquist doll. It came out of Donald Trump's mouth. Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, was nowhere to be found on the plane. She learned about it, I think, in the press. Okay. And then you're up and running. So Boris Epshteyn's list didn't have Matt Gaetz on it because that got developed on the airplane, but it did have Aileen Cannon, the Mar-a-Lago, Trumper and Federalist Society sweetheart, who dismissed the entire indictment in favor of Donald Trump in the Mar-a-Lago espionage and obstruction case. She was listed as 1 or 2 on the list. Now, Donald Trump, I think the road divides in front of him. He has 2 choices. He can either go the conservative route and get a surefire confirmation, especially after Gaetz goes down, and Todd Blanche just moves up 1. Todd Blanche would get confirmed as the Attorney General, as would the Solicitor General John Sauer. He could also take Jay Clayton, who's somebody he put in a friendly position in the Southern District of New York, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney Federal, move him over to Attorney General, which allegedly is the job he really wants. He once headed the Securities and Exchange Commission under Donald Trump, slide him over, and then kind of do a reshuffle the deck, right? That's one. That's sort of easy. Jay Clayton would get confirmed. Todd Blanche would get confirmed. Or he can just do another trolling middle finger retaliation pick. You won't let me get Matt Gaetz? Aileen Cannon. And, it's going to be hard to stop an Aileen. She's not qualified. I mean, other than the fact she's not qualified. It'd be hard to get her. I mean, the Republicans would probably rally around her. There's enough press about that. And we've always thought that he's grooming her for the United States Supreme Court. Should something happen to Alito or Thomas or somebody, that it would be Aileen Cannon, and this Attorney General position could just be the stepping stone. I do a whole hot take on this. That'll be coming up probably tomorrow on Midas Touch. So that is the world. He either goes conservative, Todd Blanche, Jay Clayton, somebody like that, or he goes, F you, Aileen Cannon. And you know where I think Donald Trump's head is at related to that. How do we stop all this? We stop it by calling our senators. There's 2 of them for every state, and opposing these outlandish, obscenely unqualified cabinet picks that will compromise our national security and make us the laughingstock around the world. And you can just flood the zone with calls and emails and communications with their offices. And don't stop. I mean, the House has some role in this too, and there's some House Republicans that are also upset about this, especially Matt Gaetz, who doesn't have a lot of friends in the House. So that's the Matt Gaetz affair. We're going to talk about, after this, I'm going to talk about, kind of catch you up on Tulsi Gabbard and Henseth, and then I'll finally talk about Donald Trump's attempts to block the last 20 or so remaining judge vacancies from being filled by Joe Biden. I'll do all of that, but we're fortunate. We've got our sponsors still with us, and we got another round of them right here. I spend most of my day in front of a screen and a microphone, and this used to mean I spent a lot of my day sitting. The research on sitting for long periods has been linked with various conditions such as poor heart health, bad posture, diabetes, and the list goes on. This is why I love Uplift Desk and their ergonomic desks and chairs. A standing desk can help lower your risk of disease, improve your mood and focus, boost productivity, and increase your energy. I use my Uplift Desk every day. When I'm standing up thinking with a cup of joe about how to prepare for my next hot take or podcast episode, I'm not staring into space. It's my most productive ruminating and cogitating me time at my Uplift Desk. And only when I'm on my feet do my creative juices really start to flow. The option to move while I work promotes better circulation, which can reduce all types of different health risks and repetitive strains. Uplift Desk helps you build your custom dream desk by choosing from over 100 desktop choices and hundreds of accessories. Their desk configurator lets you build out a complete workstation with storage, seating, wire management. Listen, when I used it, I had my perfect dream standing desk that I've wanted for over 30 years configured in less than 10 minutes. I had loads of fun configuring my Uplift Desk, starting with picking my tabletop. I went with a beautiful walnut butcher block, added white legs and storage drawers, wheels for mobility, and a number of cool cable management and pop-up and power grommets for my perfect custom Uplift Desk. I especially like the different control options and memory settings that puts the desk at just the perfect height for me and lets my wife join in on the productive fun when she visits at the office too. We've got a special deal and it's exclusive to our audience. When you visit our link at upliftdesk.com/legalaf, you're going to get 4 free accessories. Free same-day shipping, free returns with free shipping, and an industry-leading 15-year warranty that covers the entire desk, plus an extra discount off your entire order. That's upliftdesk.com/legalaf for a special offer, and it's only available at our link. Work better, live healthier with Uplift Desk. I have a secret weapon. No, it's not my stylish eyewear, although I do like them. It's my ability to always find a parking spot on the streets of Manhattan, despite complicated alternate side of the street parking rules and conflicting street signs that make no sense. A secret weapon is a great asset to have in your back pocket. It helps you get ahead in life. That's how Mack Weldon thinks about clothing, as a secret weapon. Timeless, classic style that's infused with performance fabrics and hidden details. Whether you're looking for light as air underwear, anti-odor tees, or sweaters with lightweight warmth, Mack Weldon has a full range of clothes that feel comfortable all day long. And they never go out of style. Mack Weldon and their comfortable yet modern and stylish clothing means that when I reach for their clothes in my closet and put them on to tackle my day, I instantly feel confident that my clothes are making the right impression on people I may meet or when I record. It's always the perfect fit, wash after wash, and how my clothes look is now one less thing I have to worry about to start my busy day. It's not just that they are soft to the touch and on the body. It's that they are reliably cut and designed to signal to the world, I got this. And, hey, don't tow my car, please. They're not flashy, just classic, always in style, and made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. Mack Weldon clothes are designed to fit your style and the demands of modern life. They look like regular clothes, but feel like the latest in modern comfort. They're the go-to choice for guys who want to look great without even trying. And if you aren't convinced yet, well, wait until you try Mack Weldon's crazy comfortable but elevated sweatpants in their Ace collection. You won't go anywhere else for high performance and comfortable, classically cut clothes again. Get timeless looks with modern comfort from Mack Weldon. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code LegalAF. That's MackWeldon.com, promo code LegalAF. Welcome back. See, while we were away, we had some new news, some other new news. You know, Donald Trump's busy little beaver putting unqualified people into positions. Remember Dr. Oz, the guy that used to tout weight loss pills on a television talk show that lost to Fetterman of all people in Pennsylvania? Welcome. He is your new head of the Center of Medicare and Medicaid. He'll get along so great with the other person I was going to talk about, RFK Jr. RFK Jr., he with a worm in his brain is going to be, who doesn't believe in vaccines or health or nutrition or any of that, is now the director of Health and Human Services. And, you know, it's not really jocular. I don't mean to laugh. It's really a nervous laugh I have that I've developed since I've been hearing these cabinet picks. I'm going to end up being like a crazy person in the corner soon with all the people that he's picking. There's a huge segment of the U.S. economy that is healthcare related. The big pharma, pharmaceutical, insurance companies, doctors, payors, payees, patients. Think about how big on a pie chart the gross national product is dependent on healthcare, pharma, bio, science. Get all that? Food, drugs. I mean, think about it. Every day, I assure you, every 100% of this watching audience, 100%, I can say this with great confidence, touches a food and or a drug every day. And now the head of that new segment, the co-president of the United States, is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's this close to believing that the Democrats created hurricanes, including Helene. When you listen to like Marjorie Taylor Greene and QAnon and then line it up next to RFK Jr., I defy you to tell me which column is which. And now it's not just policy. He's not the Surgeon General, RFK Jr. It's levers of power over in a huge 20, 30% segment of our GDP. You know, he's got his tariff warrior, Howard Lutnick, who's now going to be the Commerce Secretary, you know, busy tariffing our way into poverty as an economy, right? Not an economist, not somebody that's done that before. You've got real people who know what they're doing in hedge funds and things that are like, you can't tariff your way into a trade war and help with the trade deficit or our national debt. That's just not the way to go. And then you got that guy. And then you got RFK Jr., who doesn't know what he's doing. I wouldn't let him run a bath, let alone run 20, 30% of our GDP in terms of policy. And he'll be aided in all of this, if that's the right word, with Dr. Oz. Does this make you feel better at night? Does anybody feel more secure now, knowing that Tulsi Gabbard, a likely Russian asset, Pete Hegseth, a Christian right-wing nationalist who hosts the Fox ball drop on New Year's Eve, is responsible for our national security, and that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Oz are responsible for a 30% of our economy? This is what you voted for? I don't think so. I think people want a do-over. From what I'm seeing in social media, not just on the Midas Touch Network, just throughout, people want a do-over. It's almost like he won. That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is, everybody. And as we said internally recently, not one of these things I'm talking about today. Not one. I'm not even going to get into the details of how there is a move afoot to make the one lone transgender House member use her own bathroom and not use the bathroom or the water fountain, I guess, that's used by the rest of Congress. And yet, last I checked, the price of eggs stayed exactly the same. Nobody was benefited. No one's going to be benefited by any of these policies. Quite the opposite, and by these people in these positions. So let's talk about Hegseth. Wrap it up. Nothing says I did not commit a sex assault like the revelation that he entered into a non-disclosure agreement and paid money to the purported or the alleged rape victim. And the rape victim and her lawyer are ready to come forward. Now we're going to see the witness tampering, obstruction, and witness intimidation that Donald Trump is known for. It's already started. Pete Hegseth, represented by Tim Parlatore, a lawyer who used to represent Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago until he fired Donald Trump when Donald Trump wouldn't listen to his advice and ended up getting a search warrant executed on him. That Tim Parlatore went on Breitbart and threatened the rape victim. First, he said that basically his client was raped. She was the aggressor, right? This jacked former military guy, he was raped. He was attacked. Okay. And she's a liar, and she's got an NDA. And if she tries to pull, he actually used the four-letter word for Republicans. Christine Blasey Ford, which is the Kavanaugh person who testified against him that he attacked her. They try that on us, they'll see us in court. Another bullying attack on women. Another rejection of the victim, right? But they're playing this strong bro thing out to its infinite degree. And everybody else is just in their wake. And yet a fair number of women voted along with Donald Trump. Again, buyer's remorse set again. So Pete Hegseth, who publicly says out loud women have no place in the military and combat roles, who says that only men should be in leadership and in combat roles, who wants to see all the 3- and 4-star generals that know what they're doing with legacy information, institutional knowledge, all lopped off and purged, something he'll be leading if he gets this position, who's never run anything in his life. He wasn't even good enough to be on the weekday edition of any of these Fox shows. He's now going to be in charge of a $850 billion budget. Does that make you feel better? And his Christian nationalist views and his Christian Reconstructionist views, they want to see Armageddon. Because it helps install heaven on earth. Just what I want for the guy that's supposed to be stopping World War III, a guy who's in favor of World War III. So that's Hegseth. And then Tulsi Gabbard is the fact that I even have to form this sentence in this segment, this sentence of, is she or is she not a Russian asset? I'll tell you who thinks she's a Russian asset. Well, she may not be, but the Russians think she's a Russian asset because on Russian TV, and I know a little something about Russian television, because of Russian TV, they on their major news program, Channel 3, they said she's Superwoman and that she must be a part of the Russian security services. That was the Russians trolling Donald Trump and Tulsi Gabbard. Now, the reason they think that is because every time she opens her mouth, out comes Putin's talking points. I'll give you an example. Putin's main justification for rolling the tanks into Ukraine and destroying their sovereignty and killing innocent civilians was that they were working on microvirus like COVID in labs funded by the United States. And he had a right to protect himself and do a preemptive strike. All false, by the way. The labs are all public. They're not working on a COVID. They're working on preventing a COVID. And this is all a lie. And 2 years into the war, we know it's a lie. Didn't stop Tulsi Gabbard from going on Tucker Carlson a couple years ago and reading almost verbatim the talking points that were placed in her mind and her mouth by Putin as a justification. Oh, they're the biolabs. No biolabs. That was the exact same talking points that Russia TV, RTTV, now being prosecuted by the Biden Department of Justice, put in the mouths of those right-wing bro podcasters based in Tennessee. Tenet Media gave their company $10 million. These were the exact same talking points. It was all anti-Ukraine. And when she's not doing that, she's visiting one of our enemies who used chemical weapons against his own people in Assad in Syria and coming back and telling the world, no, Assad's fine. He's not a war criminal. He's not an enemy of the United States. What are you even talking about? And now we got to worry about the head of our national intelligence being so compromised that our allies won't share intelligence with us. You know what's been keeping this country safe for the last 20 years since 9/11? Our intelligence community, combined with CIA and military operations, FBI and the like, stopping these terror cells and everything else. Part of it is we have cooperative agreements with other countries. For instance, the Five Eyes, right? Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States. I think I left out one. Can't wait. And the UK. And they don't want to share data with Tulsi Gabbard, who could be sharing it with Putin, making us unsafe. Tulsi Gabbard, not qualified, should not be confirmed. People should be crying out about it. Let me just turn lastly to what's going on with a little scorecard on the federal court confirmation at the end of this urgent update for the week. Trump tweeted out late last night. He was all pissed off that on Monday night, the Democrats were able to get 12 of their nominees out of the remaining 40 confirmed. I think there's about 15 or 18 left. And Donald Trump wants it for him. Mine, 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 mine. He's like Scrooge McDuck, but with nuclear weapons. I want all those federal picks for me. Save them for me. Don't do, and they're not in the majority in the lame duck Senate, the Republicans, but they can, through procedural acts, they can drag their feet. Oh, can't do a vote now. Got to go to the bathroom. Oh, no, we usually do a voice vote. No, we got to do it the old-fashioned way. Take out your feather quills and your wax seals. We're going to do it the old-timey way because it slows it down. And Donald Trump sends out a pissed off tweet, social media post, in which he says, no more confirmations. No more judges confirmed. But the problem is the numbers. You need a majority of a quorum that's present. The Democrats are wearing, I think they've all handed out diapers. I think Chuck Schumer just handed out Depends to all of his members and got them like B12 hanging on intravenous bags and said, sit in your seats. We're not going anywhere. We'll always have the majority if we just sit down and vote, right? Now, they always need one Republican, but like Collins and Murkowski are helping out with that, which is getting Manchin to vote with the group. That's how this whole majority is tissue papered and gummed together for the Democrats. But they're doing it, right? And the Republicans, though, are coming and going. They're all giddy with power from Tuesday, and let's go watch Elon Musk's launch. Okay, that's 4 Republicans that are not in the room to vote on the Senate Judiciary Committee. And J.D. Vance is, I'm too busy. I got to interview people. Well, he's not there. Okay, great. And so the numbers are in the Democrats' favor every time a Republican's not there. And some of the Republicans that are there are getting pissed. They're like, oh, we had to, we could have killed that judge. But we didn't have the numbers because the Republicans are checked out. So we have this inconsistent messaging. Donald Trump telling the Republicans to kill the judges, but they're not showing up for the vote in order for that to happen. Thank God. So I don't think he's going to get it. The bottom line is I don't think Donald Trump's going to get the entirety of it bounced. He's not going to kill all the rest, but he's going to end up with like a handful, more than he really should have. But that's where we're at. I mean, I think that is the number one thing I want Joe Biden to do. He's doing other things too, by the way. People think, Sleepy Joe, He's doing a lot of other things. He just authorized long-range missiles for Ukraine against Russia. He's just doing, negotiations with China. He's got a lot, the antitrust department under Joe Biden's Department of Justice is trying to break up Google or at least take away Chrome. There's lots of stuff still going on. There's still indictments going on, investigations in the Department of Justice. Like you can't spike the ball yet. The game's not over. So we'll continue to follow it. You're here on the Midas Touch Network. Thank God that you are. Hit the subscribe button. And of course, we formed right before the election a new channel. We're bursting at the seams with all this legal and political news. And we called it, what else? Legal AF. Yeah, we're creative that way. Legal AF, the channel, MTN, at Legal AF MTN. Come over there, and we're doing this every hour, every day with a bunch of collaborators led by me at the intersection of law and politics, where we don't blow smoke or sunshine. And of course, we got the Legal AF podcast tomorrow, Wednesday, midweek edition with Karen Freeman, Nick Nifolo, and me. And hopefully that'll be the only legal show for the week at that time slot. And then on the weekend, on Saturday, Ben Meiselas, my co-founder, and me, we do it all again, wrap it up for the week and what else has developed since midweek on Legal AF, the podcast. Watch us on YouTube, record it. We get 18, 20,000 in an evening to watch it. Then you can pick it up afterwards or pick it up on audio podcast platforms of your choice. So until my next hot take, my next update, my next contribution on Legal AF, the YouTube, or Legal AF, the podcast here on the Midas Touch Network. I'm Michael Popok, and I am reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.